welcome to a new edition of Beyond the Jump, the podcast of the Global Champions League and the Longines Global Champions Tour. You can find this podcast on GCTV, on YouTube and on Spotify, so follow, like or subscribe on these platforms for all the upcoming podcasts. My guest for this episode is still the number 2 podium finisher in LGCT history with 26 top 3 placings. He is the number 3 ranked rider in LGCT Grand Prix history in terms of wins, and his immortal partner still holds the record for most LGCT Grand Prix victories. More than Explosion, more than Hello Sanctos, nobody did better. Casal is still the best in the business. A very warm welcome to the most successful mechanic in show jumping. Welcome, Rolf-Göran Bengtsson.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good.
I didn't see your reaction when I was talking about the statistics. I did catch your reaction when I said the most successful mechanic in show jumping.
Yeah, there's maybe not so many of them having a mechanic or carrier in front of the riding.
Yeah, because
or in the beginning of the riding.
Because there are basically, I recognized 3 parts in your career, or 4, and I understand 3. There is the part 1997 to 2003 at Tops.
Yeah.
Then there's 2003 to 2017 with Bo and Rolf,
Yeah.
Bo Christoffersen and you. And then after 2017, you together with your wife, with Avi.
That's true.
But the part that I can't find any information about is the part before 1997. So my first question is, how did Rolf-Göran Bengtsson end up at Staltops? What happened before 1997 that Jan Tops thought, wait a minute, I can use that guy?
I'm born in a farmer family. My father, he bred some horses and liked horses, rode a little bit show jumping and 3-day eventing himself. And that was also the way I grew up, and I started into the 3-day eventing. So I was doing that with ponies and 1-2 times Swedish championships, and started with the big horses also in 3-day eventing, and then slowly by slowly I said it's more fun to go for the jumping and have more horses to jump and more chances to start. And that I did actually slowly by slowly more and more. And I was doing this mechanical work in the beginning for 6 years, and then I rode only in the evenings. But then there was too much, of course. I went to so many shows, and I have to take free every Friday. Then I have to take free every Thursday also. And then you were very tired on Monday when you came back driving the whole night. So I stopped that and then focused on the show jumping directly and more.
At that point, did you think you were good?
In Sweden that time, I slowly grew up to be one of the guys who were
Don't be humble. Don't be humble.
No, but and then of course when you are in Sweden, you were one of them best there. Yeah. But there was still a long step and a long way to go if you wanted to test it a little bit more. And I met Jan in St. Gallen at the show, and then I've already that time I rode 94 in the World Championship in Den Haag.
Yeah.
St. Gallen, the Europeans, and I was in Athens at the Olympics with one horse, what I had that time, Paradiso. So I've done a little bit on the high level already then, and I was down in St. Gallen riding the Nations Cup there, and Jan just came to me and asked if I knew somebody for his dealing stable in that moment. And I had a happening before. My father just died a few weeks before the show there. But I decided with my mother that I should go anyway. So I was not really in focus of going abroad and start to work for somebody like that. I have too much to do at home in that moment and sort everything out. He had many horses when he left us, and the farm and everything was there. So we have to organize that first. Yeah. And then we talked again in Falsterbo at the show there in the summer, end of the summer. And then I have like a little bit of distance to my father's death, and I said, this is maybe a chance to test a little bit how how good you can be coming outside Sweden. So I talked with Jan again, and then from there on, I was end of September. I started in Falkesvard.
You weren't, if I may say that, if you look at the riders who arrived these days at Staltops, the age that they are at in their career and the point they're at in their career, you were at a completely different point. How old were you when you started at Staltops?
I was already then old. I was 35.
Yeah, not then old, and not that you're old now. You were 35.
Exact.
Yeah, because if you look at like the Zorzis or Deusser or Steve Gerda even, they were all in their very early 20s.
Yeah.
So when you went to those Olympics and Europeans before you went to Staltops, that was all in your own business. That was your own progress, your own program. You were not riding for anybody.
No, I was doing it myself with some support of some good families with horses, and I had a kind of sponsor that time who also supported, and he bought this special horse Paradiso there, that I could keep him, and then I could build him from a 5 years old up to doing the Olympics. So there was a nice career with that horse too.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And
who was that family? Are they still into show jumping? Are they
no, not anymore. No.
Okay, you're still in contact with them?
Not anymore. No, they were building houses, and
they thought
and
Bengtsson from Lund.
They have the daughter was riding, so there was a connection with horses. They liked horses, and lived not so far away from me, and we just happily met, and the idea came up: why should we not make a horse and see how far we can go? We put the name of the company on the horse. So that was the beginning. Because
of course we're talking about the Athens Olympics 2004. The horse was at that point, what, 11 or 10 or 11?
No, in Atlanta.
Atlanta?
96.
My, oh my, yeah.
So I was doing 94, 95 and 96 with that horse. And then I started by Jan 97.
Yeah, right. Of course, you were at Jan's. So they bought the horse as a 5-year-old, not with the intention to, or not with the ambition yet to have an Olympic...
No, I said that turned out to be a better horse than we may thought in the beginning. I liked him when I saw the horse, and then I talked with the people and say, I have an idea now for a good horse. If you want to go, we can do this horse. And they say, yes, we do. Let's buy it.
And let's go for it.
And we built it slowly up and brought it up to the big spot.
Rolf, before you went to Jan, there was the passing of your father. Is family important for you?
Yes, it is. Now, of course, I left Sweden already in 97, so it's many years ago, and I still miss my family. They are far away, and I don't see them so often. I try to go there in between, but it's also the distance. It takes time, and you're not having too much time over for this kind of things, but I try to do it, and for my mother especially.
And was it difficult for you to leave Sweden with your father having passed away, leaving your mother behind? Was it a difficult decision?
That was a hard decision, yeah, it was. And we were sitting oft talking about it then when I have the chance and the offer to go. And I said also to my mother there, but I cannot leave you alone here behind, and with all this and everything here now to organize, and she was the one who actually pulled the trigger and said, come, this is a chance. Your father also would like that you have tested it and tried it, so I think you should go.
Yeah.
So she was a very good motivation then to say, if she is okay with it, I go and I live, and not leaving her alone behind.
Yeah.
But she was fine with that.
Do you have brothers or sisters that were still around her that could support her?
Yes, my sister was still there, but she also married and left home. So of course she was left behind.
That's tough.
But she's a strong woman, so she lived with that, and we have a daily contact at the phone, and we still have, and that's very nice that we did it, and she's happy with that. She came off to visit us also in Staltops, and also coming to shows and being supporter at the championships and things like that.
Yeah.
So big supporter.
As we go through your career later on, remind me, when your mother was there. We'll talk about it later. But if it comes to mind that your mother was there, just point it out to us. So you go from Sweden to Staltops. Imagine that. Did you go because it was Jan Tops, or did you go for the opportunity, or did you go to leave Sweden? If it would have been a less big name, would you have left?
No, maybe not. This was a chance. There was always like a flow of good, nice horses, and the attention was to bring horses out in the sport and to sell them. So there was a big chance to come out in the international sport and to see people and compete against other people who was better than you, and try to raise your level and do better.
Yeah. So then you go to Staltops, 1997. What do you remember of the early days there? Which were the first horses that you sat on?
So in that moment, Tanny Tops was waiting Julia, and I came maybe a little bit more also because of that I could help her to keep her horses going, also the one who was going in the big sport. So I was doing quite big shows in the beginning with then her horses. Then when she was have the birth and she was back in saddle again, of course she took the horses back to her. That's normal.
Makes sense, yeah.
And
which horses
I
were
could
there?
have one horse to compete with.
Yeah. Do you remember which horses those were?
It was Chopin, Power Lady. There was the one too who was going the most bigger classes. Angelus was one who was going maybe a little bit lower, but a very competitive horse too.
And then you get in touch with at the stable there in Valkenswaard. There was no talk yet of a Tops International Arena. How was it to work with Jan Tops in those early days? We know that he's very demanding. He's very competitive, very ambitious. Was it also the case already at that time?
Yes, of course. He was always talking about this Global Champions Tour and had idea about the teams, and riders should ride for the teams and with sponsors and the whole setup like it is now. It was already in his mind that time.
25 years ago.
Yeah, exact. And he was riding himself also, of course, then that time. So we were often at shows together and like watching horses, try to see which one could we have use for, or which one could fit for a customer somewhere. And then slowly by slowly he then stop riding and get more and more into the happening of to build up the Global Champions Tour. And I was still there then, so I was then more away to the show myself then that day.
Because you rode there, Jan was riding still himself. How much involved was he in your riding? How much? Because basically you're more or less the same age now, I think about it.
That's true. Yeah. Jan is 1 year older than me.
Yeah.
So, but I think we went very good together, and especially in the beginning, he was, of course, more into the training also, and watching, and always very enthusiastic at the shows and supporting and making plans for a jump off or to be as good as possible when we show in the ring. And also to make the management, which I didn't know so much about when you're coming out of Sweden that time. I have more young horses and many stallions and so. So this was a step up in the bigger level, and there comes much more about management and everything in this case.
Yeah. You left Staltops in 2003, right? So that's
end of 2002.
That's actually just before the launch of the Longines Global Champions Tour.
Yeah.
Which starts in 2006. What were your highlights when you were there at Staltops? What are the moments that you remember very fondly?
I know with Roofs winning a Grand Prix in München was my first car I won. 2001 with Pia Lotta winning a medal, or actually 2 medals.
Yeah, at the Europeans.
The Europeans in Arnhem. One with the team's silver and a bronze medal for myself. That was fantastic things.
because we're going to as we go through this podcast, we will talk about some or we'll name some very iconic horses. And there's a few people watching or listening to this podcast that maybe have heard of the names, but we should describe these horses a little bit more for people to understand. Talk to me, because I can't remember Roofs. Talk to me about Roofs. What kind of a horse was Roofs?
Was a Holsteiner Mayor from Caletto. It was a fantastic mare, very nice to ride, very well built and super in balance and everything. So a good mind and a very rideable horse and comfortable. And I was third with her in Aachen also in the Grand Prix.
Not such a bad horse then.
No, it was but a sensitive horse. She was out a little bit before was sold and then came back because management problem, and she was sensitive then, and we managed to get a good couple together, and I have many great success with her. Was a fantastic horse for me.
And then you named Pia Lotta, which is, I guess, the horse that gave you those 2 medals. I have to be careful with the name. Tatjana van Vrijnhoven as well.
Yeah, Tatjana.
And then launched the career of Edwina Tops-Alexander.
Yeah, and with Steve also.
Also, yeah.
There was many riders on Pia Lotta at that time after me, and she was just amazing horse. How she could move her body and like being careful and quick, natural, very very fast. She was not so big, but big heart, and she wanted to do good. And yes, that you rode the jump off, but you didn't think that this was absolutely amazing quick. But she was just fast by herself in nature and landing after the fence, just thinking of the next fence in the turn, and she was already gone in canter.
Yeah. Natural ability, natural talent.
Yes, she was,
Yeah.
But also a sensitive horse, which you should not push too hard. I remember one time in Leipzig World Cup final where I had the first so the speed competition was not my best, and I had one down, and so I was a little bit behind, and then I was clear, and I was gonna win this class, and I took a too big risk on her oxer, and then she take a stop. So you should not put her into too much trouble like that. But most of it, she was with me. She was number 1 horse in the world ranking for the horses there. I think for quite a long time.
Yeah, Pia Lotta, now a good, amazing broodmare actually.
Yeah.
So then your time at Staltops, how does that come to an end? What creates the end of the relationship between Rolf-Göran Bengtsson and Jan Tops in Valkenswaard?
Yes, I was there 5.5 years. And of course you have in a time period like that, you have ups and you have downs. That is normal. And by that time I was saying, okay, I've been learning quite a lot here and have a fantastic career, have super good horses, and really looked into the big happening of the sport. Maybe I try to do this with my own way of doing it, and then it happened that in the moment where I left, decided to go, I didn't have any plan really where I should start with or with who. And then there was a couple of people who phoned me and asked what is your plan? And one of them was Bo Christoffersen at that time, who I knew Bo from before, and he said, I have an idea what we can do together. I know a stable, I have some partners where we can start with, like Holsteiner Verband and so.
Because where was Bo at that point in his career? Bo was a rider for the Holsteiner Verband, rode many stallions. Where was he at that point? Was he still riding for the Verband?
No, not then anymore. But he was there as a number 1 rider for many, many years. And and then he did a little bit riding himself by some support sponsors also for him. And then he put his riding career a little bit to the side, and was doing much of training and managing people. And then he said, that's a good way. I don't want to ride anymore. You can ride and I can manage the other parts. and therefore it was a good couple to put together. I could think about training of the horses and going to the shows and perform as good as I could, and many of the things going on at home and so he could take care of, and manage when with people around like you always need, and all what we need to order food to hay to whatever. It's a lot of things to do.
Because I guess then that that Bo is also the link to the Holsteiner Verband that in the end would result in Casal coming to your place.
Yes, so we started up in the beginning with three stallions from the Holsteiner Verband.
Who were those?
Okay, they were good. Cesano was one of them. Lodano was another one. No, I don't remember. The third one was there for a short time period. And then slowly but slowly we got another one to test, and then Quintero came. We started with him. And then I think half a year or something like that after that, Casal came as a young horse. End of 5 years he came.
Yeah, that is in the year, where are we?
He was born 99, so
2004.
Yeah.
So very, very early in your partnership with Bo, because there's a partnership with Bo and with the Holsteiner Verband. When does Ninja Laszella come into the story? How does he come into play?
Yeah, which year we were? The very first year I started championship with him must have been 2006 in Aachen in the World Championship. So he came, I think, the year before, and I started the relationship with Mr. Romo in Mexico at Stall Laszella.
Yeah, who you probably have met when working at Stall Tops.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So he was there with Jan and having a lot of horses from Jan, and then they stopped doing it together, and I didn't hear from him, and I think there was 1.5 years after I started together with Bo. He all of a sudden he phoned me and said, "Where are you and what are you doing, and could we do something together?"
Really?
So, and then we said, okay, we don't interfere to something now because he stopped with Jan. So I said, okay, let's start up something and we see what we can do. And then we had a couple of horses together, and then Ninja Laszella get bought. He was already 11 that time. He's been going 160s with Giorgio Nutti for Italy.
Yeah.
So of course I could compete with him quite quick in the higher level, and that was also the meaning of the whole setup with that horse.
So Casal arrives more or less the same time that Ninja arrives. Ninja to go straight into the big sport, and maybe Casal later. What was? Let's stay with Ninja for a while. What kind of a horse was Ninja? Because already at a good age, a horse that was formed, a horse that was already created, that you didn't have to create yourself anymore. Who organized the contact for you to go and try Ninja? Do you know who pointed out Ninja for you?
Yes, there was Theo Molenaars in Belgium. He had seen the horse, and I also saw the horse in Wiesbaden that year with Giorgio Nutti. He was jumping the Grand Prix there, very light, small horse, 62 maybe, but with a canter, and he always jumped forward, and he was athletic, and he didn't make any effort to come over big jumps. And then, we went down to try. We found the horse very, very interesting, and he got bought by Mr. Romo that time, and he started to ride him a little bit himself in the beginning.
Mr. Romo rode Ninja in the beginning.
Yes. And then after a while, we say, okay, maybe the horse could do even bigger sport with if I took it over, and that was the start of it. So first it started with Mr. Romo himself.
Yeah. I was told, I can be wrong, that you weren't the biggest fan yet when you tried Ninja, that you didn't have the super sensation just yet, that you said, I don't know who told me, but there's this Somebody told me like, yeah, Ninja wasn't a big flash at first, or is that not the case?
Also I still remember when we tried him there. I made a 3 combination, and we had 2 oxos in the 3 combination, and we built it a little bit higher because he was also an expensive horse in that age, and it's already experienced horse. So of course we wanted to feel a little bit of the scope what he had, and a small horse like that was for me not. It's not that you feel that there was tremendous of scope in the horse, but he made it very, very easy. So I was doubting a little bit about the scope, if we were strong enough to do the real big fences. But the plus was that he always wanted to jump to the front, to the back rail. And then we talk about it a little bit, and we decide we go for it, we believe in it. And that was completely the right decision at that moment.
What a career for that horse.
Yeah.
When is the last time you saw him?
I haven't been over in Mexico since the horse retired and he went over. But I've seen some films and some photos of him that he looked very, very good in his age also.
I actually saw him there. I sent you the picture, I think, in Mexico, in between the broodmares of Alfonso Romo. Yeah. Ninja, extraordinary success.
It was
highlight the medal, of course.
Exact. It was maybe not the one horse who you go for the win in the class in the jump off, because he could be then the little horse could be so strong and he could run out a bit of control, and I could not turn, I could not break again. So you have to play that with a bit of feeling, how quick can I go without losing him. But if you rode him in the exact speed what you needed for fix the time allowed and all that thing, like in the championship and so, he was a clear round machine. The first 2 championships was maybe not the strongest one, but then I did 4 more with him, so I did 6 in a row. And
talk me through the 6.
It started in Aachen,
2006.
And where was it? 2007,
so
Mannheim,
yeah,
exact, Europeans. And 2008 in Beijing. Yeah, and 9 must have been in Windsor.
Europeans.
So there was 7th, I think.
Yeah.
And then it must have been Kentucky. There he was number 6 in the World Championships.
Yeah.
That was the only one pole he had down in these 4 last championships on the Sunday, the biggest, also the 2 rounds.
Sorry?
There was the only one he had down, we say,
on the final.
In 8 rounds on 4 different places. He was clear all the way. I rode in the Olympics, I rode with the time points to be really sure that I didn't have one down. But he was clear over the jumps, except for in Kentucky, where he had 1 down. And that made not coming into the horse chains, And then he ended up his career with a fantastic win in Madrid.
Yeah. And Madrid was 2011.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was was amazing.
Because you've got horses that jump 2, 3 championships, maybe 4, that's an exception.
Exact.
But 6 is
unseen.
A lot. So health-wise, must have been strong. Or did you have to save him?
But I that is maybe my idea also about this management, about the horses, to use them in a way that they stay as long as possible fit and sound, and the mind also, that we don't push them too hard. And he was a light horse who didn't make any big effort to come over. He landed light and everything. He had some front feet, they were not the very best. They were a bit crooked and he stood out with his toes, but he was a very sound horse, yes.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, stands out with his toes. Standing in with his toes is, with a horse stands in with his toes, that has more stress on the joints, no? Or on the tendons than...
Vet, they say difference many times.
Yeah.
They don't say it's not bad if they stay a little bit toes in. If they're too much out, I think that's worse
Okay,
for the joints.
there we go.
Mhm.
What did Ninja teach you as a horse?
It was a horse, but you should not move. You should not push. You should not do too much. Small spurs, and just try to be with him like a more thoroughbred type of horse. It's incredible to go in a combination with him. If you just think forward, you were too fast and you knock the front rail down.
Really?
So you have to be like a quiet mouse on the back and say, ooh, stay quiet, stay quiet, stay quiet. Even if the oxer is very wide, he reached the back bar so easy. And that was his strength in the whole thing, that he was so small and he could jump from short to a long distance jump very, very easy.
Fantastic horse to ride.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. It was. You have to learn to ride him. In the 2 first championship, I didn't know him enough. And then I had some mistakes. He ran past the fence in Mannheim, and that makes a hassle for the rest of the championship. I was double clear in the Nations Cup, but I couldn't catch it back up that I get into the final because of the first round. Run past these Dolphins who was there in the combination.
Could it be that due to the success of Casal, people think less of Ninja? Because Casal was such a dominant horse. Because if you talk to me about Ninja now, I straight away get a warm feeling about that horse.
They were 2 different type of horses. So Casal also did a few championship and he did them very well. But he was one who you could go and win the class with, and the next day he was quiet again. Was no problem. Ninja, if you rode him too fast, first of all, was difficult to manage him and to hold him quiet. And then you needed 2-3 classes to calm him down again.
Oh, really?
He jumped so much forward then. So he was more, you have to not wind him up too much. And with Casal, there was to go, there was no problem. Next day he was just like normal again.
Yeah.
So you could go for more wins in the classes with Casal.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk Casal. Because I remember Ninja a little bit, but I remember Casal very fondly. So he came to you at the age of 5, right? From the
I think in October, November when he was 5. Yeah.
What kind of a horse was he at that point in his career?
He was he was a very shy horse and a bit spooky, afraid of things, and then like all horses, natural are animal who see something what is danger, they
run.
Turn and they run away, and he was like that. So like fence number 1 and number 2 was really you have to pay attention and really be with him. And support him and tell him this is no danger. We can jump them. I still remember many rounds with him as a youngster, which number 1, number 2, and then you could feel number 3 fence was even a little bit more relaxed, and then he came into it, and that took quite a while, and he was profiting from having Ninja and Quintero in that time who could both do the big classes. And he could come to every good shows, actually, as a youngster and as an upcoming horse. And he could just go the smaller classes around and slowly grow into it. And when they later on were old enough that they couldn't do the sport anymore, he was ready.
Yeah.
So I think that was a bit of the key for him to solve this that he was so, we say scared or careful in that way.
Because it's always, of course, what you hear from people. It's always difficult, and that's why we sit down. I remember that people said, Casal is a young horse. He didn't want to go, and he was difficult. It's so interesting to hear from you that you say, no, he was shy.
Mm.
He was kind of afraid to go. It was not bad mentality. It was just maybe even lack of mentality at that point.
Yeah, so there was not that he was a bastard who didn't want to do it. Of course not. But he was careful about himself, and that was the profit of the whole thing during his long career.
Yeah, in the
he
end.
stayed careful.
Yeah.
he didn't want to touch anything. And I still remember in London in the Olympics where when he overreached, not much, but a little bit. But he was a sensitive horse, and I couldn't keep him sound for the trot up there. So it was just a little
cut, but it was too much,
and it was not much. But he felt ow in my foot.
Yeah.
I cannot step on it. But of course, that was his quality.
Interesting. So Casal comes to you at the age of 5, comes from the Holsteiner Verband, son of Caretino. Caretino, who was a superstar for the Verband for many, many years as a sire. With what ambition did the Verband bring Casal to you? Did they say, hey, here is our next superstar? Or, hey, Rolf, we're scratching our heads, see what you think? How were they looking at Casal at that point?
No, but I remember Norbert Borlai coming to talk with us there in Breitenburg and say, I have this horse here. I believe in the horse. I think it's a good horse, but in the moment I need somebody rider on him to see if we can get that out, what I believe is in the horse. So there was a hope in the horse, and they believed in the horse, but they would give him the chance. Yeah. And I was the lucky one who get to take care of that part in that moment, to say if we can manage to get this carefulness over to a safe feeling, that he would trust that if I point something, he trusts me more than he's scared of the jump, or scared of whatever is behind the jump or beside the jump. Or
did it take long for you to build that relationship with him? How did you build it?
So I took my time, actually. I felt that if I try to go big now, it would only be that I have to, push hard and force him to do it. And therefore there was a lucky point to have just Ninja and Quintero in that moment, so taking all the big classes. In like 8, 9 years old, he was still doing the youngster more or less, and by 9 years he slowly started to come up a little bit in the bigger classes, but not in the Grand Prix for sure. I think in the end of 9 years old, we rode the first 3-star Grand Prix with him. So it was a late career actually for a horse like that. But I think that was the main key to get the safeness and the self-confidence in the horse, that he should believe in himself, that he could do it. And then all of a sudden he started, I can do it, and now if him up there, he tell me to jump this jump, I can do it. Yeah. So there was a building of a relationship between him and me, that he trusts me, and I knew where I should support him a bit extra.
That's such a great story. I wish it got told more about the personality of these horses and how they can develop under a rider that understands them and gives them that confidence. At the age of 9, jumps his first 3-star Grand Prix. How quickly then does he become the superstar that he is now?
As one of his very first big wins was, of course, here in Hamburg. Yeah. That must have been 2011.
Yep.
So then 11, then he was already a few years, because he was born 99.
Exactly, he was 12.
Yeah. Exact. And many of the horses in the big sport, they have been there much earlier. He was doing some bigger classes before also. It was not that he took the step out in the biggest class in his life that day. But that was his first really strong win. And that, of course, that was in front of the home crowd in Hamburg.
In front of the Holsteiners.
And the Holsteiner breeders and everything. A big relief that the horse is ready to do the big sport. And there, of course, also the amount of bred mares and everything just went up like very much, and everybody was believing in the horse.
Yeah.
What they maybe didn't do in the beginning, because he was shy and a little bit of.
Yeah. Because I remember that there was a time when non-Holstein breeders, people from outside of Germany, couldn't even breed with Casal. because he was so in demand, and because they wanted to keep him for the Holsteiner Verband. How was it difficult for him to combine breeding and sport? Did he combine breeding and sport?
Yes, he did. Yeah, there was also a quality out of a stallion like Casal, that he could be on the Phantom, and then he went to the shows during the weekends, and then he was free for that part there. And when he came back on Monday, he had his other second job to do. And he didn't get too much stallion out of that. He was fantastic at the showground. He was just like whatever gelding. He was super quiet and not running around in the box or screaming and doing. He was just relaxing. Could take it very easy going at the showground and save his energy to the correct moment, which is many times the problem with a breeding stallion. They get excited and they are, reaching everything, and they start screaming and unfocused, and
by the time they have to jump, there's no energy left.
No, and then they are a bit empty. So that was a super thing to combine these two things. So he bred fresh semen the whole career actually, and just in front of some very important things. If a championship, or we really have a high goal where we say now we go for this, then we took him out for a while before that he should rest and save any even more energy for just the jumping. But otherwise he was breeding the whole time combined now.
Before the introduction, were you aware about the statistics that we mentioned in the introduction? 26 podium finishes for yourself. And then Casal, no horse has won more Grand Prix on the Longines Global Champions Tour than Casal. Casal won 10. Yeah. It is Explosion with 7 and Sanctos with 6. The funny thing is, Casal won 10, you won 10 on the tour. Ben won 11, Scott won 12. You're still the third most successful Grand Prix winner in LGT history. But were you aware still of those statistics, that you were still so important actually?
I knew actually lately that I saw this statistic over most winnings, and I was third on that list. And of course, it's nice to still be there. I haven't been on the big shows now for many years. I knew that time when we retired him that we looked through what he did and everything, and I think he started 43 times Global Champions Tour or something like that. And that time was a little bit different formats as now. And I think we missed being in the second round 3 times out of that. And already that is amazing. To be by the best 5 or be by the best 10 in a Global Champions Tour is also something. But to be 26 times on the podium, I knew that there was something around that.
I'm sorry, 23 times on the podium. Edwina 26, you 23.
Okay, all right.
But it's 23 out of how many starts, you say? 40 something. That's half.
So that's half of them. Yeah.
That's actually it's mind blowing.
Yeah, that was.
So you were 23 times on the podium. I do have to correct myself again. You were 23 times on the podium, 21 times with Casal. There was also once Ninja and once Caruso. But all your Grand Prix wins were on Casal. So there we go. We are in Hamburg. I think you stood on the podium in Hamburg here 4 times. Nobody did better than you. And then we come to, I have to be careful what I say now, 2017, right? Yeah. Last Grand Prix. Yeah. You were already a crowned LGCT champion. You've won 9 Grand Prix up until that point. You are in Holstein. You are in Germany. It is the day of days. It is that Saturday in, I guess, in May 2017. How do you wake up that morning on Saturday? Talk me through it, because
when he won the All Over Series the year before, then he was already talking about, should we not stop his career now? Now we can't be better. But how I believed and I felt in the horse, there was still more in. I was not even pushing it to go over the end. And by a good discussion with with Holsteiner Verband and Norbert Borley, we decided that we pick out 6 more shows. I wanted to stop him in Sweden, and and then of course I can agree and I can understand that they wanted to stop the career in the home ground.
Yeah.
So already then there was to set up these shows, and we had him in Gothenburg, also one of these 6 shows, and we said bye-bye to the Swedish crowd with him. And then we decided we were in Antwerpen actually, where he, for some funny reason, he was never lame, but something happened with him at the show there. And we still don't know what it was, but he was not okay, so he couldn't start. I rode one little class with him, and when it was time for the big class, there was something. So
that's 1 out of 6 already gone. Gothenburg also gone.
And that was shit. Now we have our plans set up that we should end it in Hamburg and everything. And what I absolutely didn't want was that coming out of the show carrier with a lame horse or broken down horse or something. That's terrible when that happened.
Yeah, also for his legacy, for your feeling and for his legacy.
Exact. So I was really worried about that, and nobody could see anything. We could not find anything problem with him. We gave him a little rest, and we started on again, and we kept on doing this plan with the last few shows here. And I can still remember in Hamburg that the schedule for him was to jump the first lowest class. That was normally on the first day. And then on the Saturday was the main happening day for him. So he had Friday off, charged his battery, and he was ready to go. But here in Hamburg, the first lowest class was on Wednesday, and then 2 days of rest, Thursday and Friday. They came out of rhythm a little bit. So, and I needed that class also for Clarimo that time to be good for the Championat. So he went into the lowest class, and then he went on the first day the Championat, and Casal should start on the Friday. But that was already quite a big class. And I was always riding him in the first little low class with super soft and didn't make him more to jump. I just schooled him around that little class to have a good experience and come into the ring and get in form. And already by the second fence he was much higher than he was used to then as a first start. He knocked that down behind, and then he like, ooh, what was that? And then he ran to number 3, and he had it down in the front.
Kidding.
And that was not good for him. There was too much. And then I came through, I think, through the 3 combination. I have another one down because he was just tense. And I was sitting there, so shit, this is absolutely not good, because he was so careful. He should not have any down. No? If it happened to touch a little fence, he was good enough for a long time. So I stopped. I didn't even finish the course. I must have been, there was 2 phases or something like that. Otherwise, you have to be qualified to, you have to ride one part of it. So I stopped. I didn't finish even the course there. And then I drove home in the evening, and I was really worried. I said, this was not a good preparation today to having that amount of fences down. He hardly never had a bad round like that. So I was really worried, and I could not really fall asleep that evening before the big happening. I said, now tomorrow we're going to have the biggest class of his life, and we wanted you to be as good as possible. We can come out with 1 down, it's no problem, but finish it in a nice way, and that he stays sound and everything. So, but the next morning, rode him a little bit here in the showground, in the warm-up, and he was feeling great. He was doing well. And then I still remember how went into the first round, and I was not in a team that time, so I rode for myself more or less. And I said, because of that he had some down, I ride him a little bit of a nice ground speed and a rhythm, and we ended up 4th in the first class. So already then, yes, he's back. He's there where he should be.
Because that means that you are 4th last to go in the second round.
Exactly. Yeah. And then that day and that time, Peter Fredriksen was here with All In. I think he won the class, but he has a plan where he didn't want to go in the big class with him. So he pulled out.
Pulled out of the Grand Prix.
Exactly. So I was third last to go. And then in the second round, I was clear again, and the two ones I don't remember who it was better than me in the first class. They both have one down, so I ended up being last in the jump off.
There comes your perfect scenario.
So then it came back, and then of course we didn't have the real hard competitors in the jump off. There was 5 of us.
I think real hard.
No, but maybe not the fastest
Okay,
horses.
yeah, that's true.
Was hard.
It's nice that you say that even yourself. You could also say, it was the very best and the toughest.
But of course, I had the card in my hand when I rode in for the jump off. I knew what they have been doing, and it went my way.
Okay, let's slow down. Do you remember the jump off? Do you remember where fence 1 was? How it was built? Talk me through it.
No, I must say I don't remember really the jump off. I remember the end of the jump off coming out from the top and down the hill to a vertical where it went a little bit long for me, and he started to back off a little bit, and I even tapped him a little bit with my whip to make sure that you have to take off now in this moment here, and he was in a mode where he wanted to jump clear.
Yeah. I think when did you know when you crossed the finish line that it was yours? Did you know it? Did you feel it?
That you never really know like that. I knew that I was quick, and I knew that the other one was. They were also fast. They didn't walk in the park for nothing. They also wanted to win it. But I had a good feeling, and then of course, like a couple of strides after the finish line, you can look at the screen, and yes, there was number 1.
Yeah, and of course, it was probably one of the loudest jump-offs ever in Hamburger Derby history, in the LCCT Grand Prix here in Hamburg. The crowd, because everybody knew what was going to happen that weekend. Everybody was there. The breeders, the Holsteiner Verband, everybody was so hyped about it. I think people had cards and everything about Casal.
Yeah.
That was
No, that was announced before that he after the classic we're gonna retire him, and there was made some small handkerchiefs and everything with his head on, and everybody was waving with them, and the crowd was really going for the horse and supporting it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to ask you the question. You're struggling with your throat. Are you allergic, or do I see your eyes a little bit wet?
No, but that was something that was really special. I can still feel it.
Really?
Yeah.
Such a moment.
But on the other hand, there was to say farewell to a horse in that moment, where it went absolutely the best way you could think of. There was I wish what you were dreaming of, like before, that it should come to an end. Say, if I could win my last very ever class with him, that would be the dream goal what you could have. And then it comes to this point where you manage to do that, then it was easier to say that was it.
Yeah. My goodness.
But really?
Yeah.
I really feel it.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful that you show it as well. I'm myself. I'm a bit speechless. That does happen very often. Is that then also you've won medals? You were silver medalist behind Hickstead in Beijing. You've won all those medals at championships and Grand Prix. Is it also the highlight of your career, that Grand Prix win, or is it too short? Is it too easy for me to say that?
No, but to end it like that, to win the all-over season there, I was so close. I was twice ex-equal. Once with Scott, I think, and one with Edwina, and it was just divided about who won most.
More Grand Prix, yeah.
And I lost both of them, so that was already, yes, I made it this time. And then to finish it off like that, that was more worth than any medals.
Yeah. Where is Casal now?
He's at the Holsteiner Verband, and they keep on riding him. Is nicely keep him a bit fit, and I must say he looks very good too for his age. And he's always happy when you come there, and When you come there, you scratch him under the belly, or on his, especially on one spot of his neck where he really like it. And he's still the same. And okay, now he's very spoiled. Everything coming there to visit him, to give him candies and pat him and so. So he's
because of course
more going off the candies than remember you.
Everybody who goes to the Verband for whatever reason, what reason? That's not Elmshorn. Elmshorn, yeah. Everybody who goes there, they go there and nobody leaves the door without visiting Kezal, of course.
Without seeing him, no.
Yeah, what a superstar.
Yeah.
Rolf, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to sit down. I know that you were in a rush. You were riding the young horses out in Hamburg at the show. They come here to the hotel and talk to us, and to be so open and even very honest about your life with Kezal and your entire career. Thank you very much. It is very much appreciated that you took the time. It's a beautiful story. I can't wait to share this with people. I hope it gets shared around and that everybody understands that very special connection between you and that superstar Kezal. Thank you for sharing your story. I hope at home, if you're listening or watching, that you enjoyed it just as well. By now you should have subscribed, liked or followed on whatever platform you're watching this. We'll bring you new episodes of Beyond the Jump very soon. And so we say bye-bye and goodbye. See you next time on Beyond the Jump.